Hello, audience. Today, Anissa, Kayla, and I will be arguing why the Kurds deserve their own nation-state. Here's some background. In the early 20th century, many Kurds began to consider the creation of a homeland, generally referred to as Kurdistan. After World War I and the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, the victorious Western Allies made a provision for the Kurdish state in the 1920 Treaty of Sevres. Such hopes were dashed 3 years later. However, when the Treaty of Lausanne, which set the boundaries of modern Turkey, made no provision for a Kurdish state and left Kurds with minority status in their respective countries. Over the next 80 years, any move by the Kurds to set up an independent state was brutally rejected. The Kurds deserve their own nation state because of their largely sized population, history of repression, and difference of culture. Now let's focus on their size and location. Most of the population wants to have a nation state. The total population is estimated to be 35 million all around in Kurds. In Turkey, it's estimated that there are 14.3 to 20 million. In Iran, it's estimated that there are 8.2 to 12 million. In Iraq, it's estimated that there are 5.6 to 8.5 million. In Syria, it's estimated that there are about 2 million. Although they had inhabited the land for almost a millennia, they never had their own nation state. Migration of the Kurds to the urbanized western portion of Turkey, thus diluting the concentration of the Kurdish population in the uplands. Turkey, Iran, and Syria oppose Kurdish independence because they are afraid that the new nation-state will assimilate to Iraq culture. The U.S. opposes Kurdish independence because they are worried about neighboring countries. Out of Turkey, Iran, and Syria, the four countries containing Kurdish peoples, Turkey and Iran should be the countries to give up the land for the Kurdish nation-state, and each should sacrifice 25,000 square miles, because Turkey contains more than half of the Kurdish population, while Iran contains about a fifth of the Kurdish population. However, Iran is about double the total size of Turkey, so 25,000 square miles should be given by both Turkey and Iran each to give room for a Kurdish country and between the two, with a total land of about 50,000 square miles. The Kurds are 35 million, which is way more than the population of many nation-states.
I'm Kayla, and I'll be adding on a little bit more about the size and location argument, and then I'll get deeper into the cultural aspect. Some ethnic groups have been given independence. Maybe some are smaller than the Kurds, so the Kurds deserve their own as well. Many other nation-states do have smaller populations. If the Kurds were to make a nation-state, there would be a Kurdish majority of 36 to 46 million. The four areas Kurds reside in are adjacent. Put them together and they would become a state. It would be a Kurd majority state, and other ethnic groups in the region would become minorities. The total number of Kurds is estimated to be 36 to 46 million. Many nation-states have smaller populations, such as Syria, which only has 17 million people. Iraq, Turkey, Syria, and Iran are not likely to be happy neighbors. Also, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers reside in Turkey, the part that we want Kurdistan to be a part of. Luckily for these other countries, they have an outlet to seas and oceans. Kurdistan would not have an outlet to the sea, so it would be dependent on transporting goods throughout its neighbors, which would get its neighbors money. Now let's talk about the culture of the argument. The Kurdish people are a heterogeneous ethnic group whose ethnic background comes from many regions, including Iraqi Kurdistan and parts of Iran, Turkey, and Syria. The Kurdish ethnic group includes many adjacent ethnicities that have been absorbed into modern cultures, including Iranian, Azerbaijani, Turkic, and Arabic cultures. In Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, there were extensive campaigns at forced assimilation. Kurds were forbidden to speak Kurdic in public. They had to change their names to local ethnic names if they wanted a job or to enroll their children in school. Their books, music, and clothing were illegal, and they had to hide them in their homes. Today, they form a distinctive community, united through race, culture, and language. They are also adhere to a number of different religions and creeds, although the majority are Sunni Muslims.
The Kurds were and still are facing persecution and attacks with chemical warfare. During the Turkish liberation struggle, the Kurds fought with Turkey. Turkey told the Kurds it was a fight of independence for the Turks and the Kurds. However, once the liberation was achieved, all the promises were forgotten. Turkish statesmen even sarcastically mentioned that there is no such thing as a Kurd and called them the Mountain Turks. During the first 50 years of the Turkish Republic, the Kurds did not have cultural rights like learning things in their own language or even giving their children Kurdish names. They even deprived the southern part of Turkey of economic aid and investments. In the early 80s, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, started an armed guerrilla warfare against Turkey, which cost the lives of some 35,000 people. The ordinary Kurds were once again the victims of this campaign. More than 3,000 villages were burned by the Turkish army for allegedly cooperating with the PKK. The Kurds were forced to leave the lands they had lived on for centuries and immigrate to larger cities, where they lived in deprivation. When the Kurds helped Iran in the 8-year war, they were punished greatly by Saddam Hussein with the help of Western allies. On March 16, 1988, Iraq attacked the Kurdish city of Halabja with chemical weapons, which killed more than 5,000 Kurdish people, and those that survived lived the rest of their lives with painful diseases. Though all this happened, some progress was made in the early 90s, when they got their representatives elected into the Turkish parliament. Unfortunately, this progress did not last long because they were stripped of their constitutional immunity and were put in jail, some still to this day, serving terms in prison just because they asked for the recognition of the cultural rights of the Kurdish people.
After deep consideration and understanding, our group has found and explained thoroughly why the Kurds deserve their own nation-state. While counterarguments against this action were stated and questioned, there are reasons why the Kurdish people deserve independence, such as their size, oppression, and culture, overpower the causes for rejection of this partition and make it very clear and true that the Kurds should contain their own nation-state.